Warning, this content is for entertainment and educational purposes only. All right, folks, Big Paul here today with the one and only Larry Pollock. What's going on, Larry?
Good to be here.
Larry, your stories are the craziest I've ever heard. I mean, I feel like you're the only person that kind of shares the inside pool on what bodybuilding was in the 80s and 90s. And I feel like these stories need to be told and need to be shared so people understand what things were like. We were talking about it beforehand, but bodybuilding is just such a weird collection of odd people. We're all a little fucking crazy, and it's these guys that we used to see in the magazines that were all put up on a pedestal. It's kind of cool to see the real side of them and all. It's just some really brilliant people that have these crazy personalities and do crazy shit, and it's fun. It's fun talking about that stuff.
I think a lot of people are too worried about their image or worried about what people are going to think about them, so they hold back. They don't tell things.
I think back in the day, a lot of it was motivated by, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but that's just kind of my assessment. These guys were beholden to their contracts with the magazines and sponsorships, and they didn't want to lose that shit. So they probably held back what was going on.
You know, maybe that was like their excuse, but I remember, you know, even when I started back in the 80s, like no one talked about it. It was like a big secret. You know, I even trained around top pros at World Gym and Golds, and it was still a secret. Like people were scared. Like, I don't know. I'll tell you one thing. There's an 8-time Mr. Olympia. You can figure out who this is. And I had trained with him. And there was a short period of time I was training in a YMCA when I was like, I don't know, 15, 16, something like that. And there was a guy there, and I guess he was a reporter for a local paper. I didn't even know that he was a reporter. And he asked me, does this guy take gear? And I'm like, yeah, of course he does. All bodybuilders do. And I didn't know that he was interviewing the guy like the next day. And so then I guess he must have asked him if he took gear, and the guy denied it. And the guy said, well, Larry said you did. He was so pissed at me. And I didn't think anything of it. I just thought, well, like, of course everybody's taking it. I mean, back then it wasn't illegal or anything. We just thought about it like vitamins.
Yeah.
You know, you could just go to the gym and we'll walk up to the counter and they had D-ball and whatever. It was right there.
I remember, I don't know, I started training in the late 80s, I think it was. Was I 16? So, yeah, late 80s, early 90s, I started training. And I remember going into the gym and, like, guys did not, like you said, did not talk about it. Mm-mm. And you sort of had to earn the trust of these guys. I remember it was a couple years before I knew there was something going on. Well, at first, when I first started training, I thought everybody was natural. I remember doing Arnold's workout. I read his Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding and doing his workout, but I wasn't getting his results. I didn't realize the D-ball and DECA were the missing piece of the equation. But then sooner or later, somebody told me about it, and then I remember it took a couple years before guys would open up and talk about it. Like they had to know you, they had to trust you. It took a while. You had to earn their trust.
I think there was a stigma about it. Maybe I was kind of stupid about it because I know when I competed with Sean Ray at the Teen America, before the competition, they were interviewing all of us for, I don't know what it was for, ESPN or whatever it was. And they asked me, they said, do you take steroids? And I'm like, yeah, of course I do. Everybody here is taking steroids. And they just looked at me like, oh my God. And I remember, I don't want to say his name, but you can figure out who it is. He's a guy who won the Teen America and became a world famous bodybuilder after that. Right after me, they interviewed him, and he's like, well, no, I haven't had to do that so far. And I'm just thinking, liar. You're full of shit.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of those old guys played down what they took too. Like I don't know. I don't know how much of it's true, but you'll hear these guys saying, "Yeah, I only took 300 milligrams of Deca and 10 milligrams of D-ball." And maybe that was true. I don't know.
Well, some of that might not be true, but a lot of it is because, back then we thought 300 milligrams was a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
No one ever heard of taking grams of gear. Like it just wasn't a thing. And we were all kind of a little scared of it, I think, because we're all told, it's going to ruin your liver and this, that, and the other. And it was kind of new. So other than bodybuilders, like no one really knew much about it. They weren't talking about it. And so, yeah, I don't think I know for a fact people didn't take like nowhere near the dosages that they started taking in the 90s and like now, of course.
Yeah, it's crazy now. I think some of it too is one. There's a culture. Everybody talks openly about it now, and then I think some of it, the UGL gear, might be watered down too.
I mean, we talked in milligrams. The idea of taking grams, we never even thought about that. I don't remember ever even hearing about that until I would say it was like early 2000s. I was competing in some show in Culver City, Veterans Memorial Auditorium. And I met this Italian dude who was competing with me, and he was pretty jacked. And he was staying in LA for a little while, so he started training with me. And then he told me, like, the secret is like 4 grams of test. And I never even thought about grams of tests. It just never occurred to me to take anything like that. But he said that's what they do to get big. And apparently the Europeans were already on that thing. So I did try it, I think, for just a few weeks, and I didn't feel good on it. And I didn't feel good on it. And I didn't feel like I made very good progress either. So I didn't do it anymore like that.
Well, there comes to a point where you get sick. I mean, it's where you just don't feel good. And if you don't feel good, you can't train hard. The first I ever heard of people, the rumors I heard of people taking grams, I remember it was probably in the early 2000s, people talking about Nasser. That was the first time I ever heard of, there was always the rumors floating around of what he was doing. I think he was more open about it than other guys were. Maybe. I don't know. You knew the guy, right?
I didn't meet him until 2005.
2005.
When I was actually driving down to Mexico because I used to get the quality vet and Dankel stuff down there before they shut that down. And on my way down there, I stopped at the World Gym, and I was training there, and I ran into him, and then he offered to train me, and that's when I first met him. And then during that whole prep, I was like driving back and forth between LA and San Diego, and just staying in a hotel in San Diego so I could train with him. And his payment for training, I was supplying him with GH because I had the Gentropin kits from China.
Well, that's a good payment for training him. Yeah, that story you told on your podcast recently, folks, if you haven't subscribed yet, you should check Larry's channel out. I'll put a link in the video description below, but it was excellent. The one with the synthol and his protocols and stuff, that was crazy. Some of the stuff he talked about.
I knew about synthol, and I knew people did it, and I heard about it, but again, like, no one was coming out and telling you, like, this is how to do it or what. So he was the first one that told me, like, where to put it and how much to take and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I was shocked by the numbers, how much you were talking about, how much it was. I've dabbled with it. I've never really run a whole lot of it. I played around with it a little bit, but it's not something that I've messed with a lot. But yeah, you're right, guys. You can clearly see it. Like when I was backstage at North Americans, I don't know, it was 2 weeks ago. They were, you could see it.
Well, I got to say, I did that because I was in prep and he was telling me what to do. And I'm like, I guess whatever Nasser says, I got to do it. So,
yeah.
But anybody who does that on like a consistent basis, they have a mental illness. Like, to sit there and inject yourself with that many injections, that's insane. I just remember just sitting there like a human pincushion, and my ex-wife just sticking needles in me for an hour.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. The amounts that what was it? I think you said, was it 48 cc's per side total?
48 cc's in each shoulder and each arm.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I remember just I'd lay out all the syringes preloaded, all set up, and so I'd sit there. I don't remember if I took a sedative or not. I probably should have, and she would just sit there and inject me, and it took like an hour for her to do all
crap. I was doing a couple cc's in my bicep and my tricep. I thought that was a lot.
Well, I mean, this is what he told me to do, so I did it. But I know that people like, Boston and the people that, continue to do it on a regular basis. Like I said, you got to have some kind of mental illness to sit there. I don't like taking shots. Only shots I take now is like an insulin needle with a half cc. No, I'm sorry, a 1 milliliter insulin, a syringe with a 1/2 inch tip. And that's as big a shot as I'm going to take anymore, because I'm just tired of poking myself with. I can't imagine sticking a 22 gauge 1.5 inch needle in myself anymore. It's just something I don't want to do.
I was sick of it after contest prep, and I didn't do anything for about 4 or 5 weeks. I just took off completely. And it was the same thing. I just get tired of doing shots, and it's just been running like once or twice a week.
Some people, I remember Dave said, some people just like taking shots. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I do not like taking shots.
Yeah, I hear guys talking about, taking splitting up multiple doses throughout the day and doing all that stuff. I get tired of the shots. I freaking hate them.
But especially if you're using big freaking needles, and with synthol, you don't have a choice. You have to use like a long 1.5 inch 22 gauge needle.
1.5 inch 22. Yeah, that's what I've heard. At least, probably 1.5 inch if you want to get it. Otherwise, it leaks out.
Well, yeah, it's got to go deep underneath the muscle. It can't just go like 1/2 inch in. It's not going to work.
Yeah, it'll leak out. I've seen it leak. Well, you can see it. You can see it when it leaks out.
Yeah,
it looks all blurred. There was one. I've seen some people. I don't want to name names, but I saw a guy at North Americans where his shoulders were just all deformed looking. They did not look right. They were just like, I don't know, something happened. I don't know if it's scar tissue or overdid the synthol or what, but like they were just out of whack. They did not look right.
You notice that guys nowadays, like the top pros, they don't have any striations anymore in their shoulders or triceps or anywhere. And they're bigger than ever. So I'm thinking maybe that they're just loaded full of oil, that it's like some of it's leaking out under the skin and just blurring all that definition.
Probably. Yeah, you can tell. That's why I would never do my shoulders, because I have big shoulders. I don't want to lose my striations in my shoulders. But you can see the guys that do it in their shoulders. Like it just looks like a bowling ball under there. There's no definition, separation, striations. Same thing. Like I think like back in the 90s, like Dorian with his side tricep and his arms were just, his triceps were cross-striated. You just don't see that anymore.
Well, even in the 90s, you had Flex Wheeler, and his shoulders were like bigger than his head, but they were just like big giant balls.
Yeah,
there was not a split in them.
He ran a lot of synthol, right, from what I heard.
Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah, and you have to wonder, and I've speculated about this, if that doesn't contribute to some of the kidney problems that guys have.
Well, no one really talked about this because I don't think anybody really knows. But think about this. You're putting such an amount of volume of stuff in your body, and your body has to filter and absorb that crap. And not only that, it stops blood flow. If you've got like all this plastic and oil and whatever like jammed in your muscles, I'm talking like a lot, to the point where it's making your shoulders and arms, several inches bigger. There's no blood flow getting through there.
No.
So the muscle's like dying, and there's got to be like waste products and all this kind of stuff going on.
Yeah, it has to be necrotic. I was talking to somebody who was telling me about like when they've gone in and done surgeries to clean the stuff up, and the tissue's just all dead, and they're scooping it all out. Yeah, it can't be good. Like you talking about like with Rich, like you could see his arms, like his arms didn't move when he was relaxed at all.
No, he flexed it right in front of me, and the first thing I noticed is like it didn't change shape.
Yeah.
It was just like the same, whether it was here or up, it was the same, or his arm was extended. It was almost the same.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, and like you said, that's got to be some sort of mental illness at that point.
Well, that guy, I mean, I'm not trying to talk shit, but okay, he would wear an outfit every day, and the whole thing had to match. Like if his theme was green, he had green shoes, green clothes, and then he'd put in green contacts. Like he had this like an outfit he'd put on. This is how weird he was. Like, I don't know. I don't really trip that much about like, being color coordinated just to go to the gym.
I just wear my sweatpants and my black t-shirt.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the same. I'm going there to train. I'm not trying to like show off or something. But everywhere he went, he had like 1,000 pairs of shoes, and he'd like matching outfits for everything, and then different colored contact lenses to match the thing that he was doing that day.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, bodybuilding's full of these characters. It's part of what I love about it, though, too. I love the weirdos. Some of the weird. They're full of interesting people. That is for sure.
Well, you think about it. Like, I think chicks are worse than some of the guys, even.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the amount of time they spend all day, like making themselves up and dressing up and putting makeup on and everything that they do just to go out of the house.
Yeah.
I
don't know. Bodybuilders are pretty bad. Some of us.
Not me. I just like, I own the gym, so I just put on my sweats and a t-shirt or tank top or whatever I'm wearing to train and go.
Where's your gym at?
It's in Ventura.
Ventura. Okay.
Yeah. Underground Performance Gym.
Yeah. I'll have to come out when I come out the
whole thing is actually, it really is underground. Like, it used to be an old Sears building, and this was like the basement floor of the Sears building. So like right cool. Above us is a Smart and Final. But that's it's really big. Cool. It's like a city down there. That whole bottom floor, there's a ballet academy, there's a jiu-jitsu studio, it's like an improv night show thing, and then there's us all that's down cool. there. And my gym's like 12,000 feet.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've always wanted to own a gym. I know it's a pain in the ass, but I know it's a lot of work.
Once you get it going, like it's 24 hours and it's automated, so it kind of runs itself.
That's awesome.
I guess having staff is the hardest part, to be honest with you.
That's the hardest part of any business.
Yeah. Just, dealing with workers. And I honestly, if they had robots, I'd get rid of all their humans.
That's coming soon. That's not going to be that much longer.
Well, I just, you have to deal with all their issues, whatever it is,
Oh, trust me, I know. I ran a business for 20 years, so I know all about dealing with employees. It's stressful.
But like, I was a marketing manager for about 12, 13 years. And every day I had to put on a suit and tie and go to office and put on this like whole act, as part of my job.
Yeah, I don't miss the corporate world. I'm glad to be a full-time bro now.
So yeah, I did that, and I didn't mind doing it. Like, I actually liked doing it. I'd put on my suit and tie and go do my thing out every day. But then when I stopped doing that, it's like, if I don't have a reason to put on a suit and tie, I'm not going to put on a suit and tie just to like go to the gym.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't miss it at all. So I was going to ask you, I know you, if I recall the story correctly, you lived with Mike Mentzer, right? Was that the story? You guys were roommates. How did you meet Mike?
So there was a guy named Brian. He was a big steroid dealer in LA. And I don't know how I got introduced to him, but I did. And there was a guy above him, and that guy above him wanted to kind of be like off the radar. And so they kind of wanted to make me like the guy. So they like put me in charge of all of Santa Monica and Venice and everything. And I was just how old was I? 18, 19 at the time. And they just introduced me to everybody because they wanted me to be the person to distribute to all of them. So Brian brought me over. First, he brought me to meet Ray Mentzer. We met at a gym, and he was a total dick. He was huge. He was like, I don't know, 20-something-inch arms and probably close to 300 pounds he looked like anyways. And I remember we met at this gym, and we were going to train, and he says to me, he says, "You think you know something about bodybuilding? You don't know shit." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. I'm just a kid, you know?" And then he's like, we're training, and he points to his arm, and he goes, you see that? You know what that is? I'm like, "What?" He goes, "It's a muscle fiber." He was a weirdo. So then the following week, Brian brought me to meet Mike, and total opposite. Mike was this like cool guy, real friendly. But I was shocked when I met Mike. He was like pot belly. His arms were like maybe 12, 13 inches, and hair was all like disheveled and everywhere. And I'm like, this is the guy. I'm thinking, this is the Mike Mentzer I used to see in magazines and everything. I couldn't believe, it was him. But he was cool. I don't know. We got along right away. So at the time I was going back and forth between my mothers and fathers, and I wasn't really getting along with, they had gone through a divorce, and my mom was like stressed out. And he said, "Do you want to move in with me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And I didn't realize moving in with him meant that I also get to pay the bills. Yeah. At the time I was, selling gear, and I was working in nightclubs bouncing. So then he's like, "Oh yeah, rent's due. And, oh, we need to go grocery shopping." And he had no money. Like all he did was write articles for Weeder, and he didn't get very much money for doing that. So yeah, I was living there, but I got him to train with me because I was getting ready for Teen America, and I wanted him to train with me. So he did. But in order for him to train with me, I had to get him his meth. And I had a friend of mine who was a Hell's Angels down in the Valley, who was a meth dealer. So our routine was we'd start off at the apartment in West Hollywood, and then we'd drive all the way to the other end of, like, I think it was Northridge in the San Fernando Valley, to the meth dealer, get the meth from Joe. Then we drive all the way back to Studio City, where there was a Nautilus, and we go to the espresso shop right next door to the Nautilus, and we take a double espresso, and there were 5 milligram dexedrine spatules, were like this fast acting amphetamine.
I remember those.
Well, first we started at the apartment with an Obitrol, which was like sort of like an Adderall, and then Mike would do the meth. I never did the meth because I didn't like it, but I liked the dexedrine because they only lasted like an hour. So basically, you get all wired up, you'd go train, and then as soon as training was over, the thing would wear off. But he liked the meth. So we go train there like crazy people. Like we walk in there, I remember just being so wired up, it's like you're almost like shaking. And then we train a high intensity, like on the Nautilus equipment and stuff, mostly Nautilus. It was a Nautilus Plus. And then afterwards we'd go to the Good Earth restaurant. They had a chain of them down there, and eat, whatever.
The ultimate pre-workout: dexedrine, meth, and shots of espresso.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Who needs C4 when you have that?
Yeah, it was. I think it was a little overblown. The amphetamines. I mean, we trained crazy hard, but honestly, I can train that hard today with like nothing. So,
what was the training like? Was it like he described in his book, or was it different? A little bit different?
No, I mean, we did, straight, like we do a warm-up set and then one set to all-out failure with forced reps and negatives. And we do probably 2-3 different exercises for a body part, depending on what we were doing. So figure total, you're probably doing like 6 sets for a body part. Warm-up set plus all intensity, like just set to failure. It wasn't this thing that they came up with later where he was like, and we did train every body part once a week. And we did split the body parts up. It wasn't like, we'd go do back one day and we do chest on another day. And then we'd do like shoulders and arms on another day and legs on another day. So we were training probably 4 days a week. Yeah. Later he came up with this, I don't know if he really said this or if they just say that, he's training a body part like every 10 or 20 days or something, whole body workouts. We didn't do that.
Yeah, I remember him saying that in his book. And then like the all-out 1 set per body part, I think, I just got the impression that was not how he really trained from talking to people.
Well, there's a lot of people that hated on him. Yeah. And even still to this day, because they were in the Arnold camp. So they'd say like, oh, he didn't really train like that. Well, yeah, he really did. I trained with him for a year and we really did. And I actually grew from training like that. I got bigger, but I did feel like, I felt like it wasn't enough exercises to hit all the different body parts. Like, you do 3 exercises for back. I mean, yeah, we grew bigger, but I feel like you need more exercises to hit your whole back because there's just so many different parts of it.
Yeah, there's crazy amount of muscles in your back.
Yeah, so I think, like something like biceps, triceps, shoulders even, you could probably get away with 2 or 3 exercises and make good results. But I think some of the bigger body parts, they need just more volume. Not more volume in sets necessarily, but more volume in just total number of exercises to hit all the different parts of the muscle. Like right now, I sort of train similarly. I'll go, after my first exercise, whatever it is, I'll probably do like 3 or 4 warm-up sets before I get to the heavier sets. And then I'll do like 2 heavy sets, 1 straight set and then 1 drop set. And then the next exercise, I go straight into 1 heavy set and 1 drop set, like 1 heavy set to failure and then a drop set. Yeah, and I do train sort of like that. I just don't go, yeah, it's the same thing. I do like 1 heavy set to failure, maybe a little higher reps, like 10 to 15 rep range. And then the next set, I'll increase the weight. And then that'll be like either a set to failure with like forced reps, or I'll do a drop set.
I mean, that's pretty typical. I know a lot of people train that way, where sometimes people do a top set and a back off, a sort of similar kind of thing.
Yeah, I've done both ways. I've just found, like, at least I think there's a point where the muscle's trained, and if you keep going more, you're not stimulating any more growth. It's done.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends too. Like what I've seen is like you can either, if you are training with high intensity, you got to keep the volume lower. If you're not training like all the way to failure, you might need a little more volume to make up for it. But it seems like people get big both ways. I've seen, Dorian clearly got big training that way. Ultimately, I think if you take enough PEDs, it doesn't matter that much.
I don't know. I find regardless of the PEDs, my training is the main driving factor in whether I'm getting bigger or stronger or not.
Yeah, for me, it always seems to be diet is probably the most important part for me, at least. That's what I found. And training, I'm not saying the training doesn't matter. It certainly does. It's very important. You got to do everything correctly, and you kind of got to figure out what works for you. Mike, how long did you live with Mike?
Oh, probably 8 or 9 months.
8 or 9 months.
Yeah.
Did you keep up with him after that?
What's that?
Did you keep up with him after that?
No. So what happened was, we started training, and like initially, like I said, he was really small. And that guy, man, he blew up. I mean, he was ginormous in like 3 months.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he was huge. Like when I say huge, you remember who Victor Richards was, right?
Yeah.
So this guy was like a 300-pound, just the biggest dude in the gym. And I remember one day Mike and I were at that Nautilus, and Victor was there. And Victor was standing there talking to Mike. And Victor was bigger because he was taller and just like 300 pounds. But I remember thinking like, man, Mike's shoulders and arms are like as big as Victor's. He was really big, and he was wide, very wide. But anyways, he didn't like talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he talked about him continuously, nonstop. And one day I said to him, he's like, I don't care about Arnold. And I'm like, for somebody you don't care about, you should talk about him a lot. He didn't like that. But then there was a thing where, he disappeared for a few days, and his girlfriend, Julie McNew, was calling me like, do you know where Mike is? And I'm like, no, I don't know. He just disappeared. And then he calls me and he's like, hey, can you come pick me up? And I'm like, okay. And he gives me this address, and I go to this address in Beverly Hills, big house up on a hill. And I get there and I come inside, and it's a big house with like old records on the wall, and there's a long table with like it's like what I want to say, like the place was built like one of those old tables like you'd see in like the King days with a a long table with
like a banquet table,
40 chairs next to it. So at the end of this really long table, there's Mike sitting there with this like little Richard Simmons dude with the frizzy hair. I don't know if it was Richard Simmons. I don't know who he was. But the guy's like rubbing Mike's arm. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? I'm like, okay, Mike, do you want to go? And the dude starts coming up to me, goes, show me your muscles. And I'm like, what do you mean? So he starts coming at me, and he starts grabbing my chest like he's grabbing tits. And I'm just like freaked out. I'm just like, whoa. So I'm backpedaling, and he's like coming at me. And there was a stairway behind me, and I like literally jumped backwards off the stairway, like down 10 flights of stairs. And anyways, I looked up the stairs, and I'm like, hey, Mike, are you coming? And he doesn't come out. So then I just left. I got in my car. I called my father, and I told him like what happened. And he's like, yeah, just get out of there. You don't need to be involved with that shit. So then later Mike came back, and he's like, yeah, you got to move out. And I'm like, okay. So that's when I went and got my own place. And shortly after that, I got colitis. I competed in the Team America, and like a few weeks after Team America, I got colitis and ended up in the hospital for like 6 months. And that really did a trip on me, because I went from like I was going to be a pro bodybuilder to now I'm laying in the hospital for 6 months on total TPN. They're feeding me through a tube, a total parenteral nutrition, so that my colon could rest, but that didn't work. Anyways, I ended up having my whole colon removed.
Oh, wow.
And I had a pull-through surgery. Luckily, they just developed it at the time, but I got it. And so I got this done. And actually, after they did the surgery, I probably could have gone back to bodybuilding. But in my head, I kept training. But I don't know why. I just thought competitive bodybuilding was done for me. So I really didn't know what I was going to do. So I was just training, and then I started getting in trouble. And anyways, long story short, I got involved with some stripper chicks and got in a bunch of trouble and ended up in prison.
How did that happen?
I got involved with some stripper chick, and I moved her in with me. And anyways, we were living in a place, and I don't know if she left the bathtub running when we left, and we came back and the whole apartment was flooded. So we had to get out of there. And my friend, the Hells Angels, the same guy that was a meth dealer, he had like a trailer in front of his building, and he said we could stay in it, but it had no running water, no electricity, nothing. And they were going to hook up the water like the next day. So there's not even like a toilet or anything to use. And they were going to cook dinner, and she took my car to go grocery shopping, and she didn't come back. And so anyways, she didn't come back. And then my friend got pissed because, she left with a car, and he finally locked up his building, and him and his girlfriend went back to sleep. And I was up the whole night, just like, and we didn't have cell phones back then. So there was a payphone that was probably like 5 blocks away from where we were. And I was like walking over to the payphone like all night calling, trying to figure out where she was with my car. Finally, I found out she was at a bar with some girlfriends of hers that were like drug addicts. And a friend of mine, a bouncer, he told me that they were there. And the next day I found out, who she was with. And my friend, the Hells Angels, he knew somebody that worked in the phone department, and I got a telephone number where she was, and they ran the address for me. And so I went and borrowed a car, and I called them and I told them, hey, she had my car and it had a trunk full of steroids. And those steroids were supposed to be delivered like the previous day to somebody. So I went over there to get my car, and I told them that I was coming, and they told me like somebody from something was going to kick my ass, these girls. So anyways, when I got there, I knocked on the door, and they were just inside laughing. Like they thought like it was funny. So I literally took one step back, and I like walked through the door. Like the door shattered, and they ran in all different directions. And then a couple minutes later, the police showed up, and I'm like, okay, the police are here. I guess we better go and talk to them. So they arrested me right away. And first they just arrested me and charged me with like breaking and entering or something like this. It was some small charge. It was like a $5,000 bail, and I bailed out immediately. But one of the girls' stepfathers was like the head detective at the West Valley station there. So the next time I went to court on this, they changed the charges to attempted murder, attempted kidnapping, all this attempted shit. They, in the process of, while they had me and originally arrested me, they raided my car, and they found the steroids, and they also found a gun in there. Then they went to my apartment. They found more steroids and more guns. And so then they were just all over my ass at that point. So yeah, they charged me with all this attempted assault, attempted kidnapping, attempted murder, attempted burglary, all this attempted shit. And they revoked my bail and put my bail at, first it was $1 million, then $2 million, so that I couldn't get out. And she actually came to court and testified for me and said, it's not true. He didn't do it. All this stuff that they're saying. I was supporting her at the time. So she realized, like, after the whole, her getting high with her friends, and then they ended up fucking her over, that now she's fucked because like now she doesn't have me taking care of her. So even though she went to court and said it wasn't true, they just hammered me. And I had an attorney at the time that I had paid him $35,000, which was a lot of money back then. But then when I was back in jail, I couldn't pay him anymore. And he knew that because I had no way of getting money. I'd already paid him. And he said, I'm not going to trial with this. So he basically quit on me.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. And
That's
I'm like,
terrible.
and they're telling me I have to take this deal and plead guilty to all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but I didn't do all this stuff. I'm not going to plead guilty to it. And he's like, well, I can't go to trial on this. And he's like, you have to take the deal. And I remember standing there, and they're reading these charges, and he's like, take the deal. And I'm like, no. And he's like, you have to do it. You have to do it. And I was just 20 years old, so I didn't know any better. So I took the deal because they told me, like, if I didn't take this deal, I was going to get life or something. So they just basically scared me into taking it. And the deal was like, I think it was 12 years and 8 months, of which I ended up doing like 6 years on it.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. So then I was in LA County jail fighting that case for a year. And then after that, I went to Chino Reception Center, and then they sent me to Corcoran, which was like one of the worst prisons in California at the time. And I was there for, I don't know, maybe a year and a half. And then my mother's husband at the time was a psychologist, and he knew a psychologist at CMC, California State San Luis Obispo, and they had a medical there. So they got me sent over there on what they call a 90-day op, which was like an observation, and they got me to stay at CMC, which was a really good thing because CMC was what they call a programming institution, where like Corcoran was like a battle zone. It was they called it gladiator camp. Straight up riots and, fights nonstop every day. But CMC, people were programming, trying to, they had a lot of lifers there trying to like get paroled and whatever. So they had college there, and it was just a much better place. And I'm lucky I went there, because if I had spent 6 years at Corcoran, I don't know how I would have turned out. But when I got to CMC, they had a powerlifting team, and they had a really good gym, like a full-on indoor gym there, and they had the outside weight piles as well. But I got to train with the powerlifting team, and they had this Christian Powerlifting Association would come in every couple times a year and run powerlifting meets, and I always won the powerlifting meets. So that's what I did. I went to, they had college there. It was Chapman University, and it was actually ran out of Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and the professors would come in the evening, and they'd run college courses there. So I actually went to college the whole time I was there, and I worked as a rabbi's clerk in his office, and I just lifted weights and went to school and did his paperwork. That's how I got through that time.
That's awesome, man.
So then when I got out, I immediately had a job working in a law firm. Even before I got out, was lined up doing bookkeeping for them. And then I got a few other jobs. And one of the jobs was for Vector Marketing, selling Cutco cutlery. When I got out of there, I actually transferred. I had a few classes to make up to finish my degree from Chapman. I had to go to Cal State Northridge to finish up. So when I was at Cal State Northridge, they were advertising for jobs, and there was this knife selling job for Cutco cutlery. And at that time, I was like, I'll do anything. I just need to make money. So I actually took the knife selling job, and I actually did really well at it. I didn't even know how well I was doing. I ended up being #1 sales rep in the nation my first summer. And I wasn't even trying to do that. I was just trying to make money. And then like 2 weeks before the end of the summer, they're like, you have a chance to make All-American, which was their like #1 sales rep in the nation. And keep in mind that all the people I'm competing against were like young college students, and I was already like late 20s at this point. So my mentality was like way different. I would just sell like crazy. And so then from there, I ended up becoming actually, let me back up. When I was still when I first started selling the knives, what they did is they had you go to people you knew, like friends and family and whatever. That's how you get started, so you could get leads. So they had us make a list of like everybody you know. And like, I didn't know a lot of people at that point. So one of the people on my list was Mike Mentzer. So I actually made an appointment with Mike Mentzer, and I hadn't seen him in years. And I went over there and I did a knife demonstration for him. I was trying to sell him some knives. They were good cutlery. I mean, they were like cooking cutlery, Yeah,
I remember those.
And he's like, forget the knives, look at your body. And then I'm like, oh, geez, really, Mike? Seriously? So like he was hitting on me. Like, oh, man. So that's when I just didn't talk to him after that anymore.
Yeah, I'd heard that about him.
Yeah, I didn't. I guess I knew when I was younger when it was like the house with the Richard Simmons guy, but I didn't really know what was going on like with that whole situation. But then when I was there, he was like hitting on me in his freaking place, and I'm like, geez.
Yeah, I'd heard the stories.
So, there was a lot of weird stuff going on back then.
Yeah, I mean, that was just par for the course back in Venice Beach, wasn't it?
Well, Weeder ran everything. And, I used to go to the photo shoots because Mike had me set up. When bodybuilders would come in from Europe, they needed a driver because they didn't have a car, and I had a car. So he had me driving like Barry DeMay and Edward Cowick and all these people. I'd drive them to the photo shoots, and it would just be like me and the photographers and Weeder there. And Weeder would always like, "Why are you always here? Why are you always here?" I'm like, "I don't know. I drive." I was just a kid. But then Weeder would be like, I'd be watching and he'd be like, "Let me put on the oil. Let me put on the oil." And he'd be like rubbing these guys all up. It was like pretty creepy. And they'd just be standing there and he'd be like rubbing them oil all over them and stuff.
Yeah, I heard he got a little friendly with the massage oil.
Yeah.
Or with that was the stories that you hear.
Well, I was there. I saw it. So I knew it was up. So
yeah, those were the old stories you heard. That's hilarious. So what happened to you after all that?
So then, anyways, did really good selling the knives, and then I qualified to become a district. First, I was a branch manager for one summer, and then I qualified to be a district manager for them. And then I was a district manager for 10 years with Vector Marketing, and my job was to recruit and train salespeople. And I ended up being like top 5 in the nation for 10 years straight as a manager out of 300 offices, and I did really well there. But finally, I had earned a promotion every year for 10 years, and they weren't giving me the promotion. They were promoting people under me, over me, that hadn't accomplished as much as I did. And I kept thinking, as long as I keep producing, they're going to have to give me this promotion from district manager to division manager, but they weren't doing it. And finally, I went to the vice president, and I said to him, so what is the deal here? I've earned this promotion like multiple times over, and you're not giving it to me. And he goes, "Well, you're just missing one thing." And I'm like, "What's that?" And he goes, "The intangible." I'm like, what do you mean? What does that mean? He goes, "Well, what do people think about you?" And I'm like, "What do you mean people think?" Like, okay, what people? First of all, it's not the customers because I don't meet them anymore. It's not my sales reps because they're kicking ass. So you mean you people? What do you people think about me? And that's when I realized what it was. I didn't kiss ass the way they wanted me to. If they, like some of their things they did, like they had a base pay and a commission, and the base pay was like the switch and bait.
Yeah.
Bait and switch. They'd get people in with this base pay, and then they basically switch them onto commission. And if you didn't earn the commission, you'd get fired. And so they would really push the base pay and not push the commission because basically the managers were too weak and lame to try to sell people on being able to sell on commission. And I didn't really believe in that because I was good at selling. So I would push the commission, and I would produce the best sales reps because of that. And my sales rep kicked ass, but they didn't really like that I didn't go along with their kind of way of doing things. Was a little shady. And I'd always tell them, like, I don't know why you have to lie like that. I'm beating all you guys, and I push the commission. I don't push the base pay. I mentioned that it's there, but I don't make that the main thing. I make the commission the main thing because that's really where they're going to make the money. So yeah, I just didn't go along with their shit. And because I guess in the corporate world, they want people to kiss ass and do what they're told and fall in line. And I just never was that person.
Yeah, there's only one boss I like, and that's me.
Yeah, I can't work for other people. Even after that, I went to work for a company called Carico International, and they wanted me to do the same thing like that I did for Vector for them. And I remember the first summer we started kicking ass, and I shipped my first like $100,000 week in orders. And then they're like, "Oh, we have a problem. Like, we can't fill these orders. We've never seen so many orders come in." I'm like, "Okay, so what does that mean?" He goes, "Well, we can't pay the commissions out until, we get the product and we get and we ship it." And I'm like, "Well, you can't do that. My sales reps sold the stuff and they're expecting a paycheck. You can't like hold their paycheck when, they're not, because you're back ordered on product because you guys are lame." And so that was the end of that. a couple weeks of that, and I'm like, I can't do this with you guys. Like, you're not the company that I never had that problem in Vector. I mean, everything was like, orders were turned in, product was shipped that week, checks were shipped the following week, everybody got paid. There was never any of that. And this company, they claimed to be all that. They couldn't do it. So then after that, I left that company and I went, this other company was opening a chain of gyms, and they brought me in there as a training manager. And I started as a training manager, and their actual manager was a total lame ass. So I remember, from the training manager, they wanted me to be the manager, except they weren't putting any money into it. And I knew from working with Vector, you have to advertise, because that was my job, as marketing. And I'm like, you guys aren't putting any money into advertising. I said, at least let's print up flyers and let me go hand them out. I'll go pass them out around town, get people coming in. They didn't want to spend money on that. So I realized that place was going to fold, and they did. So then I was just working as a trainer at different gyms this was down in Orange County, Costa Mesa area. And at the time I was still getting quality vet and Denkel from Dr. Cohen was making it. And I would bring it back up and I would sell that stuff. And then Dr. Cohen got busted in 2005. It was Operation Gear Grinder. And they shut down that. They shut down all of Mexico, totally shut it down completely. And so there was a big dry spell. There was nothing. There was no good gear out there. The quality vet and Denkel that was around, it dried up really fast. And then you just started having a bunch of fake shit floating around. But there was nobody was filling that void. And I realized down in Mexico, there's nobody doing it. So then I got this idea, I should go down there and do it. I figured it's legal over there and you could do it. So I went down there and opened my lab, Stallion Labs, and it just blew up.
I remember Stallion Labs. It's funny.
Yeah, it blew up. So that year we were I think we made Anabolics. Was it Bill Llewellyn's Anabolic book? So we were featured in his book several different places, and we were on the message boards. I was board sponsor for Outlaw Muscle, and
I remember getting on Outlaw Muscle,
and we were the #1 lab for a year, and it just blew up fast. I went down there with $10,000 in my pocket, and by the end of the year we were shipping $100,000 weeks.
That's crazy.
Yeah, the money was coming in so fast, I just didn't even know where to put it. And then Raw Deal went down, and I saw everybody at Raw Deal getting busted in the United States and everywhere. I was watching it on the news. And I actually retained Rick Collins before I got busted. I called him, because we had gotten a letter in a P.O. box in the States saying from the DEA, say they wanted to interview us. And Rich Piana already tried to set me up. And so I knew they were looking for me. I knew it was just a matter of time they were going to come. Or they're going to try.
Rich tried to set you up?
Oh, yeah. He was one of my distributors. And the whole time, when I was in Mexico, we'd mail everything. And we never met anybody in person. We just mail everything. And, they'd send money to Western Union, and we would just mail everything to them. And then, anyways, Rich, I don't want to do the mail order thing anymore. I want to just meet in person. And I'm like, no, I'm out of the country. I can't meet you in person. Why? There's no reason for me to meet you in person. What for? And he's like, well, he goes, we can meet at a gym down in Orange County or somewhere. And, you could put the stuff in a locker, and, I'll put the money in another locker. And I'm like, no, man, I'm not doing that. This is stupid. What are you trying to do here? And then right after that, we get the letter in the mail. Not only that, but so I had all this money coming in. I didn't know what to do with it. So I went down to Belize and I opened a Belizean bank account. And I made a huge mistake. There were some problems with Western Union getting money through there because they were starting to track it all because there was too much coming through. So I told my distributors, I only had 5 distributors. I told them, just from now on, just wire the money to this Belizean bank account. Well, as soon as I told Rich, literally the next day I get a call from the Belizean bank, and they said, you had 2 weeks to get your money out. If you don't get it out in the next 2 weeks, it's going to be confiscated. And I had put like, I don't know, about $300,000 in there, and I had to get rid of it, like from there. So I just wired all the money to Hong Kong and bought product because I didn't know I had nowhere else to put the money. And I just had like enormous amounts of cash that I couldn't deposit in any regular bank. So I sent it all to Hong Kong, and to my suppliers. I had 2 suppliers over there, and just bought shit ton of raws and gintropins. Then I called Rick Collins and I told him, hey, all this is going down, and I want to retain you. And he's like, well, you don't actually have a case yet, so I can't really represent you. And I'm like, yeah, well, how about I just give you $10,000 and you just hold on to it just in case, because I feel like it's going to happen. I didn't know like how or where it was going to come from, but I saw everybody else getting busted before me. And I told him, I'm down here in Mexico, and he goes, well, just sit tight and just ride it out. Anyway, while this was all going on, there was like about 2 weeks of just real quiet, no busts. They like already had busted everybody but me. And then the cartel came and got me.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah. So what happened was the US DEA contacted the Mexican police because I was outside their jurisdiction, and they had no charges on me yet. They hadn't actually like had a case on me. They knew like what I was doing down in Mexico, but they had no proof of me doing anything other than whatever Rich said. So they couldn't go arrest me down there, so they just told the Mexican police. And I don't know if people realize it, but the Mexican police and the cartel are one and the same. And what I mean by that, like they're the same guys. Like during the day they're police, and at night they go do like cartel shit. So they just came and got me one night in the middle of the night, like 30 dudes with full on like SWAT outfits with masks on, with M16s with laser sights and the whole shit. So they got me, and they basically held me for ransom. Well, first of all, they got all the money that I had. They raided my safes. They managed to get all the money, and then they wanted more money. Said they I think they got like $3 million out of me.
Oh my God.
And then they wanted another $1 million. And I'm like, well, you got all my money. I mean, like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, they like, well, your family has money. And that's the way they do it down there. They kidnap people for ransom. And if the family pays, then they'll let the person go. If the family doesn't pay, they kill them. And I'm like, my family, they're like, well, your brother owns gyms. I'm like, he owns a gym and he doesn't have hardly shit money. Like they're like, your family owns jewelry stores. I'm like, no, they don't. And so what happened was there was a guy that was working for me, some Mexican worker. He was just like a bottler. And I fired him like 6 months earlier because he was like on meth. And he got busted doing something, working with a cartel at the border, like smuggling illegals or whatever he was doing. And he's the one that brought him to me. And as soon as they mentioned jewelry stores, I knew it was that guy Frank, because what happened was when my ex-wife at the time, when we started making all this money, she all of a sudden wanted to get married. So one of my cousins is a diamond dealer up in LA. So I went up there to buy a diamond ring, but he didn't own the jewelry store. He was just a diamond dealer. And like, he was like a second cousin, I just knew him, but it wasn't like my immediate family. And so I guess he told them that my family owned jewelry stores. And I'm like, well, they actually don't own any jewelry stores. So I don't know what to tell you guys. Like, there's nothing for you to get there. So anyways, I knew my time was running out because my brother was talking to him, but he was like not doing a very good job of, I think he offered him $5,000 or something. They asked for $1 million. He's like, I'll give you 5,000. Yeah. So, it was pretty nasty in there. They were torturing people, bringing people in and out. And I saw them kill one guy like the night before we left.
Holy crap.
And so then after that, I'm like, shit, I need to get the fuck out of here, because there was a guy that I was talking to, this guy, Oscar, who came in about the same time I did. And he was translating for me because he spoke Spanish. And whenever they would speak in Spanish, he would tell me later, like, what they were saying. And I'm like, we got to get out of here because we're going to be next. And he's like, oh, don't say that. I'm like, what do you mean don't say that? You saw what they did to that guy last night. And so I'm like, look, we can just sneak out of here. And so he thought, there was 2 guards that were like in the room in front of us, and they had machine guns. We knew because we could hear them like playing with their machine guns all day, but they were just kids. But at night they would go to sleep. They weren't supposed to, I guess, but they would go to sleep. And I knew because I had to get up and use the restroom because I didn't have a colon. So, and they told me to, when I had to use the restroom, I should whistle. So I'm like whistling. Nobody's coming. Well, finally I have to go. So I'd look out there and they're just sleeping out there. And so I'd take myself to the restroom. So when I told Oscar, I said, when they're sleeping, we could just like walk right out. And he's like, no, it's too risky. I'm like, well, staying here is too risky. I'm going to go. So I walked down out the back way where the restroom was and went down like a stairway and it went into a garage and I saw like body bags down there. So then, it was like an electric garage, so I couldn't get out of it. So then I came back up and then I walked right out. They were sleeping in the room in front of us and I like literally tiptoed right past this guy's nose down a stairway, and I went down into, there was like a courtyard there with a big tall fence. And it was like probably 4:00 in the morning or whatever it was, pitch black. And I was like looking for where to get out. And the only thing they had was like an electric garage door. And I didn't want to push it because I didn't want to make noise. But then all of a sudden Oscar comes behind me and he was a real skinny guy. And he was so skinny, he could get his hands out of the handcuffs. And he's like, help me out for this fence. So I lifted him up and he scaled the fence. And when he went down on the other side, he like jumped down and he made a loud noise jumping down. And then dogs in the neighborhood started barking. And Oscar looks at me through the fence and the dogs start barking. He just takes off running. So I'm like, oh, fuck, they're going to wake up. So now I don't have a choice. And I'm just like in my underwear with I had the blindfold, but I had just a rag on my head. It was the gauze that they put around our face so we couldn't see. So I pushed the button on the garage door and I scooted underneath there and I just hauled ass down the road, barefoot and everything in my underwear. And I was chasing after Oscar. And we ran down this road in the middle of the night and there was a taxi there. And then we were running to the taxi, waving it. And the taxi took a look at us and just drove away. So then we ran down the hill and down through some streets and then in I guess it was a bus station. And I don't know where Oscar went. He disappeared somewhere in the bus station. And I just was like running down this highway trying to flag down cars, but they weren't stopping. And then there was a taco stand, and the other taco stands are open like all night long. And I ran in there and there's like a bunch of dudes just sitting there eating tacos. And I come in there and I'm like, American, I need help, kidnapped. And they're like, sit down, have a taco. And I'm like, no, I was kidnapped. And so I talked to these guys and they're like, do you want us to call police? I'm like, no, don't call police. And the people down there, they know what's going on. So these guys are like, oh, okay. I'm like, take me to the border, I'll pay you. They're like, all right, come on. They said they put me in the back of this van and they like asked me which border I want to go to. And I told them Oda Mesa because that's like the shorter border to get through. So they drove me up there and I don't know where the hell I was, but it was like an hour drive to the border. I get to the border and I get out and I run up to the border and I'm like literally in like underwear with I still have the handcuffs on and gauze on my head, bleeding all over the place. And I'm like, American citizen, let me in. And the border guy's looking at me really weird, like, why are you dressed like that? And I'm like, I was kidnapped. And then the 2 guys that brought me there, they started like arresting them. And I'm like, no, they're good guys. They brought me here. Anyways, they took me in. They finally got a blanket, took me in, took the handcuffs off and brought me inside. And first I'm talking to FBI and they're asking me like what happened. And I told them about the kidnapping, but I didn't tell them about the steroid part. And then the Mexican police come and they're like, we want you to come with us and go show us where the house is down and where the kidnappers are. And I'm like, no, I'm not going down there with you. I'm not doing it. And they're like, well, we'll protect you. And I'm like, no, who's going to protect me from you? I'm not going back in there. So the FBI is like, well, we can't make him go. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going. Screw you guys. So then right when I'm finished talking with the FBI, all of a sudden DEA walks in. And they just come right in and grab me, and they're like, he's coming with us. FBI is like, hey, what's going on? And he looks at me, he's like, there's something you didn't tell us? And I didn't say anything. And then DEA just threw me in the back of a car, and they were driving me up to their headquarters somewhere up in San Diego. And when we're on the way driving up there, they told me, you weren't supposed to come back. There was a bodybuilder dead in the morgue, and he was beaten to unrecognizable. And we thought it was you, but you weren't really supposed to come back. And then they told me a bunch of bullshit. I was like, fuck off. So I got up there, and they had arrested my wife when I was in the border. They called my wife and my brother and told them that I was there. And then when they came down, they arrested my wife. And then when we got up, I got to the DEA headquarters. I don't know, for whatever reason, they put me and my wife in a room together. And they told her that I was like really dirty and all this shit. But I told her, I'm like, don't say anything. And she goes, I didn't. I already told them I want my lawyer. So then they said to me, you could help yourself. You could help your wife. I'm like, what am I being charged with? They go, well, it could be this. It could be that. I'm like, could be. I said, I want my attorney. And that was it. They said he invoked his right. That's it. No more discussion. So after that, I went to court in San Diego. Like, my wife bonded out like $250,000. My mom put up bail for her. And then they wanted no bail on me because they were saying I was like a flight risk and all this kind of crap. But I had a good attorney there, and my mother was there. And she ended up putting a property bond on her house to get me out. And then I was ordered to stay at her house in Camarillo as a condition of my bond. So I went there, and also as a condition of my bond, I had to get a job. So I went around Camarillo looking for a job. And Camarillo is kind of like a sleepy town, like old retirement town. And there, I couldn't find anything I wanted to do there, so I just opened a gym. And that's when I started in the gym business. I opened the gym just to have a job. So I did that. We ran the gym for like 3 years while I was on probation. And then finally, I always told my wife at the time, if anything goes down, I'll make sure that, you don't get in trouble. So they finally, after 3 years, they came and they said, hey, if you take this deal for 24 months, we'll let her walk. And I really didn't want to take a deal for anything because they really didn't have a case on me. They never caught us with anything, not one pill, not one vial, nothing. It was just conspiracy to distribute. So anyways, but I told her I'd do it. So I took the deal, and I ended up going to TI, and I did 14 months on the 24 months because with halfway house and time off and whatever, I ended up doing 14 months.
That's a crazy story. I guess it's better than being dead.
Yeah. Yeah, I was probably this close to being dead.
That's insane, man.
So anyways, I got out of TI and went to halfway house for, I don't know, 8 or 10 weeks or something like this. And then at the time I got a job at Gold's in LA, and then moved up to Gold's in Thousand Oaks as a trainer because a requirement of the halfway house is you have to have a job. So I immediately got a trainer job. And then my goal at that point was just to reopen my gym. So then in 2014, I reopened my gym in Ventura. And yeah, we've been running it ever since.
That's crazy, man. What a crazy story.
Yeah, sometimes I look back at things in my life and I'm like, did that really happen?
I would imagine, man. That's nuts. And I remember the whole gear grinder thing. They came in my gym and arrested a couple guys that were selling stuff that were distributing. I don't know. I remember they yanked them right out of the gym when I was working out. I remember that. And then I remember there was nothing for a while. Like, you couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
I remember when Quality Vet dried up. And that's kind of about the time that I stopped taking stuff, man, because you couldn't find anything.
Yeah, there was nothing. Yeah, they went, well, Dr. Cohen and with quality, he had Quality Vet Dental and Animal Power. Those are his three things that he produced. And he made it to look like it was three different companies, but it was really all him making these different products. And they said like Denko was from Australia, but it was all made in Mexico. Like they had a kangaroo on the box and stuff like this. But anyways, they were supplying 75% of the U.S. market at the time.
Yeah, I ran a lot of Quality Vet stuff. I remember
that was good. It was good stuff. It was high quality. It was good stuff. But yeah, they took him down, and then everything dried up. So that's when I started my thing.
And whatever happened to him? Did he just?
Well, he owned a lot of property, and I guess what happened was they set him up. They had him go to meet somebody in the United States for like a business meeting in San Diego, and then they arrested him there.
Yeah, that's what I kind of remembered. I remember that they get him in the country.
Yeah, they got him in the country, they arrested him, and then they basically told him, you know, if you agree to shut down all of your stuff in Mexico, we won't confiscate all your property here. And he owned a lot of property in the United States, and we'll let you keep your property and just stop doing it. So he just stopped.
Yeah. I mean, what choice do you have at that point?
And, you know, he was apparently kidnapped by the cartel like several times while he was running his thing down there. They kidnapped him for ransom several different times.
I guess, what do? You just tell them you're going to pay them off, work for them? I don't know.
My main distributor was a guy on Revolution named Caesar. He owned a pharmacy on Revolution. And while I was down there, they kidnapped him, and they had him for like 6 months. And I thought he was dead. And his wife was running the store and raising money for his ransom. And she finally raised enough money that they let him out. And I remember when he came and saw me the first time, like he had been locked. He had been in a bathroom, just like in the bathroom, handcuffed, sitting on the floor for 6 months.
Holy crap.
And I remember he was like really white because he hadn't been seen, and he was squinting because he hadn't been in daylight for like 6 months.
That is nuts.
He came and saw me like the day he got released. I'm like, I thought you were dead. He goes, yeah, me too. That's what they do down there. It's just like part of their business, what the cartels do.
Yeah, man, you don't want to mess with them.
No.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. So,
go ahead.
So that's nuts that you lived through all that, man. I can't even imagine all that. That is insane.
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking about going down there. I just, at the time when I went down there, I was like 250-pound bodybuilder. I just thought, I could do anything.
I mean, we do dumb stuff when we're young. You don't think the consequences through.
Yeah. Well, I knew about cartels, but I didn't really understand how Mexico worked until I lived there. I've been going down there my whole life, like driving down there to Tijuana and to Rosarita, picking up gear and stuff. But until you live there, you don't realize what it's like down there.
I mean, they run everything down there.
Yeah. And everybody there works for the cartel, like literally everybody. So like I had a housekeeper, like I hired this like lady just to be like a house cleaner. And she was like trying to blackmail me within a week, telling me like, if I don't pay her more money, she's going to tell the cartel where I'm at.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Holy crap. That is nuts.
And the cartel will pay people like some kind of fee for like bringing people to them that they can kidnap and extort.
Yeah, no thank you, man.
Yeah, so the whole thing down there is like really, really bad.
That's why I'll just stay here.
Yeah.
Well, those are some insane stories, Larry. I got to wrap this up, man. I really appreciate you coming on. This is amazing, man. If people want to get a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you?
They can either reach me on my Instagram. And it's, should I just blinked it out? What is it? Hellboy LA or the gym account, which is Underground Performance Gym, or they can go to the website, which is undergroundperformancegym.com, and they can just email me through there.
And I'll put your contact information in the video description below. Also, folks, subscribe to Larry's channel, man. You guys are doing a really good job with the channel. I like the production quality is great. It's very entertaining, man. I've really enjoyed what you put out so far.
Yeah, I've been trying to, put out just like real information. I don't know why, but a lot of people, they're just like scared to talk about things. It's like they'll talk about things, but not really.
I think it's best just to be yourself and be authentic and just throw it out there.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I mean, everybody knows what's going on. So I don't know why people are like still dancing around it, like trying to pretend like it's not happening.
Sometimes I wonder if I'm not smart or not, but I just tossed it all out there the last couple of years, and people seem to enjoy it, and I don't know, for better or for worse, it's out there.
Well, I mean, once upon a time, it was a big secret amongst pro bodybuilders, but that was, 40 years ago. Now, everybody knows. There's
still a lot of guys that don't exactly tell the truth, though.
Oh, I know. People are like, don't want people, like, they pretend like they don't take gear. It's like, come on, everybody looking at you knows.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can look at you and and people know. I don't know who you think you're fooling or anything.
Yeah, it's really, I don't know. I guess they want to protect their living and they're afraid to get in trouble. I don't know what it is, I don't know. It's you hear the guy say, they're doing this and they're really doing, what's really going on, and they're, it's like, come on.
I can understand from like, at the time, like when there was Gear Grinder and Raw Deal, and they were like really going after people for steroids with all Buckle scandal and all that. But I don't think they're really I don't think steroids are high priority. I mean, they'll bust you if they come across you and whatever, but I don't think people are looking, I don't think the government has time to go chase down recreational steroid users.
Yeah, bodybuilders. I mean, bodybuilders are no threat to the community. I mean, we got an opioid crisis going on, and there's all sorts of crazy shit going on right now.
Yeah, there's way worse stuff than bodybuilding going on. So
bodybuilders.
I don't think we're high on the list of priorities.
And my hope is by talking about this stuff, we can maybe get it decriminalized at some point. That would be nice. Sort of like the way marijuana's had it, and most states now have decriminalized it. Not most, but probably a third have, and hopefully it would be the same thing, because it really doesn't pose a threat to anybody.
Not only that, but if then people could actually really go to a real doctor and get their blood work done and get the testing done, and do things the right way, and not have to be shady about it.
Believe me, I'd rather have real pharmaceutical grade stuff and be able to have somebody help me above board and not have to worry about that end of it. I'd rather do it that way. Although it seems like TRT clinics now are a little more liberal and progressive with some of the stuff, but it's still not the same thing.
Yeah. They're still limited on what they could do.
Yep. All right, Larry, I appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you, sir, very much.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.